welcome to my YouTube channel. This is your girl Nesmo coming to your screen once again. Today is a very good day. I'm actually privileged to host a very good friend, if I would say. And today's session is actually going to be for our doctors. And I have the perfect person for the job. So welcome, Dr. AJ, and please introduce yourself to my viewers.
Thanks very much, Lucinda. Thanks for having me on your show. Glad to be here. Finally. So yeah, just to introduce myself, Dr. AJ Mehta is my name. I'm a consultant psychiatrist here, working actually in the same hospital as Lucinda. And as a consultant, I came here initially as a junior doctor, having trained in Czech Republic. So I completed my medical school in Prague, in Czech Republic, and after that I moved to India, where I'm originally from, for a couple of years, and then I came over here, and I've been here about 11 years now. So I suppose that's my brief introduction.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. AJ. So I have lots of doctors back home. If I say back home, they are non-Europeans. Kind of they are in dilemma, asking if it's really possible for doctors to actually move to Ireland. So I would like you to take us through the process involved in moving to Ireland as a doctor.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thanks very much, Lucinda. I think that's a very important question. I might maybe just start with the process first, and then I'll maybe touch on whether it's the right thing to do or not in this current
Yeah.
climate, because I think these are two separate questions. So I suppose, yeah, if you've decided to move to a country like Ireland, there's a couple of routes that you can take. So it will depend not so much on your nationality, but on where you have completed your medical training.
Yeah.
So essentially, for Ireland, it is important where you have trained, whether in Europe or outside of Europe. Uh,
Yeah.
Even if you're a non-European citizen like me, but you've trained in Europe, it is very straightforward. There is no
Okay.
exam. All you need to do is just register with the Irish Medical Council.
Yeah.
It's a very straightforward process. For me, it took about 4 or 5 months, though it is long, and it might even be longer because of the number of applications
Yeah.
now. But it is very straightforward. All they require is a copy of the degree from your college. It has to be translated in English if it is not in English, because my degree was actually in Czech and Latin, so it had to be translated into English.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I essentially had to pay, and of course I have to pay for the registration fees with the
Okay.
council, and that's it. And I just had to wait. I also had to get like a Garda clearance or a medical or a police clearance certificate from Czech Republic, to say that I didn't have any offenses and all of that, and I was of
Yes.
good standing. So that's pretty much it. Just the degree, your transcript, and of the degree, and then kind of a police clearance certificate, and you
Okay.
send that application into the council, and you wait, and you're essentially then registered with the Irish Medical Council, and then you start applying for jobs on www.irishjobs.ie or publicjobs.ie, or
Okay.
through HSE or through private services. So there's plenty of jobs, and that's kind of a separate process. But once you're registered, you're basically in, and then you just apply for jobs. So
Yeah.
for non-European citizens, but who are trained in in European Union, it is very
Yeah.
straightforward.
Okay. Just to capture this, when we are talking about non-European citizens moving to Ireland, so then they have to apply to schools in Ireland, and then undergo the education, which is for like how many years?
So, and not necessarily Ireland. So, because I
Okay.
actually trained in Prague, in Czech Republic. So,
Okay.
anywhere in Europe, if
Yeah.
they have if they have a medical degree from anywhere in Europe,
Okay.
they can
Europe.
practice in Ireland, because Ireland is
Good.
part of European Union.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. Yes, if they have a degree from Ireland, that's great.
Yes.
And it kind of depends how long the course is, but
Mhm.
generally for medicine, of course, it's either 4 years for graduate entry, or 5.5, 6 years sometimes. For
Okay.
me, it was 6 years. Mostly in Europe, it's
Okay.
about between 5 and 6 years, the
Yeah.
course of medicine. And then after that, you get a degree. And if it's a European degree, in the sense of it's a degree from a country in European Union, it is valid in
Okay.
Ireland. So you
Yeah.
just transfer over. So
Okay.
it's a very straightforward process. Um,
Yeah.
now like to move to non-European citizens who have trained outside of Europe. If you have a degree from a non-European country, so I think that's probably, it kind of happens a lot here because there's so many doctors here from the African continent, the Indian subcontinent, from Asia, so from India, Pakistan, so many doctors here, and also from many countries in Africa.
Yes.
So I'd like to go through that. So basically, if you have completed a medical degree,
Yeah.
so by that I mean a bachelor's of medicine or master's of medicine,
Yeah.
from anywhere outside of Europe,
Hmm.
there are three pathways
Okay.
through which you can get into Ireland.
Okay.
So basically the first thing you need to do is register yourself with the Irish Medical Council. But for registration, you need one of three things. So the first
Okay.
thing is you need to sit an exam called PRES. That is the pre-registration examination system, PRES.
Okay.
So that's the first. The second is if you have a certificate of experience, in
Hmm.
that you have there are certain countries outside of Europe that are
Yeah.
exempt from this exam called
Okay.
PRES.
Okay.
And the third way is if you have already a higher qualification, meaning if you are already a specialist, like a specialist psychiatrist or specialist surgeon or specialist internal medicine doctor, then you don't
Hmm.
need to sit the press exam. Okay.
Okay.
So if you are a specialist, or if you are in certain countries, now
Countries.
actually most of these countries are not included in the Indian subcontinent or Africa. So they're
Yeah.
mostly Australia, New Zealand, South Africa actually is one,
Okay.
Pakistan, Sudan is another one, Malaysia, or the UK. So these countries, you can actually be exempt from sitting this exam called press.
Press.
So, if you are a specialist, or if you have a degree from one of these countries,
Countries.
Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Pakistan, Sudan, Malaysia, or the UK, then you don't need to sit any exam. Basically, you
Yes.
just need to prove that you're qualified, and then you are registered with the council.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, for I think most of many of your audience members,
Yeah.
I think what is relevant is this exam called press. Okay.
Okay.
So that is the most common route. So many of my friends who are from India would have sat the press exam. Okay,
Yeah.
and the reason for that is without the press exam, you cannot be registered as a doctor
Okay.
in Ireland with
All right.
the Irish Medical Council.
Okay. Do they have to sit for the press exams back home, or they have to come to Ireland? How do they
Yeah.
qualify to sit for the press exams?
So that's a good question. Yes, you can actually look up the schedule online, but as of now, they are only held in Dublin, these exams. Okay.
Okay.
So I think at some stage they did used to hold them online. But just the way the press exams work is there are two exams. And one of
Okay.
them is an online multiple choice type exam, which is the Press 2,
Okay.
and the Press 3 exam, the second part of the exam, is actually a clinical exam where it's held in a center, and you go through stations, multiple stations.
Okay.
So it's an examination of clinical skills. So it cannot be
Yes.
held online. So
Yes.
at the moment, both of these exams are held in Dublin on site in person.
Okay. So then, if you have, let's say, a doctor back home, and then they want to write these press exams, do they have to apply for a visa, or do they have to register before they are now given a visa to come and complete the press
Yeah.
exams?
Yeah. So you have to register for a visa to get into Ireland. Yes. And
Okay.
yes, the purpose of the visa could essentially be just to sit the press exam, and that's absolutely no problem. People have been
Okay.
granted visa for that reason.
Okay.
So it is kind of not a business visa, but kind of a study visa with a with a shorter duration. Just because it is for study purposes, it's kind of for business reasons rather than tourism. So you are granted a visa for that.
Okay. So do they have to make payments online before they are granted, let's say, a receipt to be able to apply for the visa, saying that I'm coming to Ireland to complete these exams?
That's right. Yeah. So you have to
Okay.
have you have to have confirmation that you are taking this exam. And if I'm
Yeah.
not wrong, I don't know how much it is now, but I think I just checked. I think last year it was still about 400 euros for the Press Two exam. And then
Okay.
I think it's about 800 for Press Three. But yeah, that's just for registration for the
That's
exam.
for it. Okay. So with nurses, we have to register with the nursing council back home before we come here. So with the doctors, it's the same thing. You have to register with the Irish Medical Council before you finally move,
Yeah.
or how does it work?
So basically, the press exam is for that. So the press
It's for that.
exam is your entry into Irish Medical Council register. So
Okay.
you cannot be registered if you have a degree outside of the EU. You
You.
cannot be registered with the Irish Medical Council unless you have this press exam.
Okay, that makes
But
sense then.
there's two exceptions. The first exception is if you are already a specialist. So if you're
Yes.
already as a consultant psychiatrist with
Mm-hmm.
exams and all of that, then you can come without the press exam.
Yes.
Or if you are in South Africa, Sudan, Malta, and the other countries that I
Those
mentioned earlier.
European, yeah.
So so those countries are exempt from the press exam. Uh, and the reason for doing the press exam is basically to get the Irish Medical Council registration.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense then. Okay. So let's say how long do you think it usually takes for someone to move from home to Ireland if they're using the second option of writing the press exams?
So
Any
basically,
idea?
that's a good question, because these exams are only held twice a year, so you have to
Wow.
plan. And you may not make it the first time, but anyone I have spoken to, they have made it the first time because they're easy enough exams. They're not
Okay.
difficult. Okay, so these are not very difficult exams because they want doctors in Ireland. So
Yeah.
they're kind of nominal, but they do want to test some competency and some skill.
Yeah.
So the first exam is kind of based more on theoretical skills and how much you know. People
Yeah.
who've finished medicine are very, they're used to these exams, so it's
Yeah.
very easy. And the second exam is all about communication. So
Communication.
um, but as I said, they're only held twice a year, and there's a schedule that is on their website. So
Yeah.
if somebody's interested, they can plan.
Yes.
And if I'm not wrong, they're either in kind of in the August, and maybe in the middle of the year, and then later on in the year, kind of thing.
Okay.
So either of those exams. So you can take them accordingly. So I would say it might need some planning, but about a year is what I would say it will take.
Oh, yeah. Okay, okay. Then that's good. Then I understand that the second option is for you to now apply for an exams visa for you to come into Ireland and then complete your
Yeah.
press exams. Okay,
Yeah.
yes. So I'd like to know why you actually decided to come to Ireland and also any benefits in working in Ireland as a doctor.
Yeah. And I think this is actually quite important. Yeah. Um, Basically, when I came about 11 years ago, it was the one of the only English speaking countries in European Union. And for me,
Yeah,
English is an easy language. You don't have to
yeah,
learn much, and generally our studies and all the research papers and the academics, basically all the books that we read, are in English. So it
yeah,
made sense for me to go to a country where English was spoken. So the two
yes,
options were to me the UK or Ireland, and I think that's a common dilemma
yeah,
people generally face, because
yeah.
UK is obviously bigger. They have 10 times as many jobs as they have in Ireland, so why come to Ireland?
Hmm.
The problem with UK with me was, in the beginning I said Ireland, entry into Ireland for doctors is not based on nationality, but where they get their degree. In the UK, that's not
Yes.
the case. It actually is based more on nationality.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's the difference there. At least it used to be.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure what the process is now. And preference for jobs is again the same thing. So it was much more difficult for me, and I would have to sit the exams there. Even though I had a
Okay.
degree in European
In
Union,
Europe.
I would have to sit
Okay.
the PLAB exams in the UK.
Yeah.
because I was a non-European national, and again
Yeah.
those are kind of based more on English competency and of course clinical competency as well, but more so English. So
Yeah.
so that's why I chose Ireland, because I didn't have to do any exams. Now the second reason, of course, is yes, it is an English speaking country, but because it's a small country, you are more likely to actually have a good experience in a very good hospital,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
of the how the training system works here.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that especially when I came. Um, so I think this kind of brings me to how things have changed in the last 10 years, because now it is, I would say, not as easy as it was for me. It is much more competitive
Okay.
for all these reasons I've mentioned, and especially after Brexit,
Yes.
because it is the only English speaking country in the
In
European Union
country.
now.
In Europe. Yeah.
So it is getting more and more popular and more competitive.
Okay.
However,
Yeah.
they still require doctors. They still need
Yeah.
doctors because many doctors have moved out because of pay issues.
So when it comes to the pay rate, okay, I know Ireland usually pays based on your experience. Can you give us a range, okay, based on your experience on how much a doctor will earn, let's say a reg or a consultant will earn in Ireland?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, when you first come in, when I first came in, and these are salaries anybody can look up. They're not
Yeah.
actually, they're public. They're fully public.
Yeah.
Um, so um, so if anyone is interested, they could just look up HSE consolidated pay scales for doctors,
Yes.
and they'd be able to corroborate and confirm what I'm saying. So
Yes.
when you finish your internship, you are the way the system works here is quite hierarchical, as it is everywhere else, but it
Yeah.
goes from internship to senior house officer to registrar to specialist registrar to consultant. So
Okay.
the starting salary for an for after internship, so basically a senior house officer, that
Yeah.
was my first job in Ireland. So the starting salary is between 39,000
Okay.
euros a year to
Okay.
about 45.
Okay.
That's the kind of point,
That's the
there are
range. Okay.
multiple points on the scale, and it
Yeah.
obviously depends on what you have agreed and what your CV is like, what your experience is
Yes.
like.
Yeah.
So that's the starting range of
That's
a junior doctor,
junior.
39,000 to 45,000 a year.
Okay.
Of course, there's incremental pay, so your
Okay.
salary has to and will increase every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's the incremental pay that that is in our
So it goes
contracts.
higher if you like climb the ladder to like a house officer,
regardless
senior.
regardless
Yeah.
of that, regardless of
Okay.
climbing the ladder, it goes up, so
It goes.
based on your years of experience. So if you're on
Okay.
point one starting, which is 39,000, it will be 41 next year.
Okay.
It'll be
Okay.
then, so yes, it increments even without change of role. So
Yeah.
even if you are a senior house officer, you'll be on SHO1, and then SHO2 next year, SHO3 next year, SHO4 next year. If you
Yes.
start on SHO4, for the fourth point of scale, you never go down to 3. You always go
Yeah.
up. So you will go up 5 and then 6. So
Okay.
and then you'll stay there, and then after 2 years of SHO training, you become a registrar, and then you're on the registrar point of scale from point 1, 2, 3, whatever.
Okay. Okay. So would you say that you have any regrets moving to Ireland?
Not at all, not at all. I mean, I think my journey is, it's I suppose a good example of how what is possible in Ireland, because I when I came here, it was I got into, I should say that there are two types of jobs. There are training jobs and there's non-training jobs for doctors. So I when I came here, I was in a non-training job for 2 years. So what
Okay.
that means is I wasn't part of a formal training body or formal training scheme. And
Yeah.
then I got into a psychiatric training scheme, which
Yeah.
is for 8 years. So and I finished that. It was kind of easy enough for me to get into training because, as I said, they need specialists, they need doctors, and
Yeah.
now I think there are even more spaces for that. Um, but yeah, for especially for certain specialties like psychiatry,
Yeah.
other specialties are difficult, like surgery,
Yeah.
because, as I said, it's a small country. They don't need as many surgeons, but they
Yeah.
do need loads of psychiatrists,
Yeah.
and other specialties. So it's definitely something that that I will recommend, especially if you're interested in one of these specialties.
Yeah.
And the journey is very has been very smooth for me, and it was easy enough to get into training, first the basic training, then the higher training, and then now a consultant job.
Wow.
So I would say it is definitely possible in Ireland, more so than in the UK. I would say
Yeah.
it is easier to get into a consultant job, I think, in Ireland. Now it it's a small country, and generally maybe in rural
Yeah.
Ireland things are
Hmm.
easier. But yeah, it's definitely possible, and I don't regret it one bit.
Okay. Let's talk about work balance as opposed to you working in India. What do you want to say about that?
It is night and day, really. So compared to working in India, where sometimes you'd have to go in the weekends, and you actually just the work hours are much worse.
Yeah.
So here it's, especially in a field like psychiatry, it's kind of strictly 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Monday to Friday. So you're rostered for 39 hours, 9 to 5 on Monday to
Yeah.
Thursday, and 9 to 4 on a Friday. Now you do on call as well, but it is kind of voluntary, and you do
Yeah.
as many or as less calls, but it's good money. So the salaries, basically, that I said, maybe if we just for comparison, SHO1, if you're an SHO in your first year, you earn 39,000 a year, but if you do on call, that could go up to 60. You know,
Wow.
so if you do loads of on call, so by that I mean night shifts, along with,
Yeah.
so kind of 24-hour shifts, maybe two 24-hour shifts a week. If you do that, maybe more, then you could go up to 60 grand. So
Yeah.
I never did that because like I
Yeah.
enjoy my free time and leisure time, but people do that, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's up to you, if
Up to
you
you.
don't choose to do that, and if you're rostered kind of 9 to 5, absolutely the work-life balance is amazing.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. One important question. Most of the times when you're coming from a non-European country, you are required to write the English proficiency test, which is the IELTS or the OET.
Yeah,
You spoke about the two process. Are you required to write the English proficiency test?
yeah, I actually omitted that. Yes, so even I had to do it. Even I had to
Okay.
do it. Uh, so the first thing that you need to do, as I said, is gain entry into the Irish Medical Council register, and the
Okay.
press exam is for that.
Okay.
However, when you start applying for jobs, they will ask for a proficiency test.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
first thing they ask for, whether or not you are registered with the Irish Medical Council,
Okay.
and the press exam is for that.
It's
The
for
second
that.
thing they ask for is how good your English is. So,
Yes.
so they need confirmation of IELTS
They
or
need
OET
confirm.
exam. So I
Okay.
had
Okay.
IELTS
That's
before
good.
I came.
Thank you, Dr. AJ. Any advice to my viewers? Maybe there is a
Well,
consultant back home, a doctor back home looking at you right now. I have to go to Ireland. If really, I know definitely you've inspired a lot of people watching this video. Any advice to them?
I would say you will feel welcomed here. It is a lovely country. Um, People are very friendly here, and as you kind of asked me, in the end there about the work-life balance, I think if that is something that you value, you will definitely love being in Ireland. And it is absolutely fantastic country. I love it, minus the weather. Sometimes it is difficult to get adjusted to the weather, especially in these months where it rains a lot. However, if you don't really mind that much, the people are amazing. The work is good, and there's scope of progressing your career. So it has everything. So I would definitely be recommending people to come here.
Thank you so much. And once again, congratulations on your new post as a
Thanks very
consultant.
much,
You really
Lucinda.
inspire me, and I know many of us as well. You've come a long way. You're doing so well. Thank you so much, Dr. AJ.
Thanks very much.
Okay, okay, guys, this is the end of today's session. Please remember to like this video and also to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so. I've actually created a team that's called the Nesmomo team on my YouTube channel. If you really want my advice and also my coaching on how to move to Ireland, remember to also join my team. It's at a very low cost as well. Thank you so much, Dr. AJ, and thank you, viewers, for always coming through to my videos. See you all soon on my next video. Bye.